There have been a tremendous number of changes in downtown Greeley, but the courthouse block has remained a stable and very much identifiable place in the hearts and minds of Greeley and Weld County residents, as it should be.
The courthouse itself, I always was in awe of it. I'd been in it a couple of times, I think on tours with my classmates from the rural school. I remember being in awe of the stained glass and all things. It was something unlike anything that I was familiar with.
As I've seen and read about all of the changes and looked at all of the historical images of downtown Greeley, I truly am amazed that this block has remained the seat of our government. And the courthouse is the reason. That block has seen many, many changes over the years. When an Illinois journalist first visited Greeley in the summer of 1870, he wrote for his newspaper that he had just been to Greeley, Colorado, and it looked like so many dry goods boxes scattered across the plains of the Almighty. And so literally it was a landscape of buffalo grass, prickly pear cactus, and very, very wide open. There were very small residences that were either being built or little claim shacks from the adjacent community of Evans, which had been founded in the fall of 1869, were being brought in and placed on many of the lots here in downtown Greeley. Probably the largest, most significant building to occupy that block early on was the First Baptist Church. It really showed citizens that indeed Greeley would become a prosperous and prominent community in all of northeastern Colorado with its established principles of education, religion, and family values. So again, very quickly Greeley was established. You know, it had a park and streets and churches and schools. Greeley citizens prided themselves on having a very moral and safe community. It was important to establish a jail and to show that we were serious about law and order in our community. So again, wanting everything to be above board was really important. Also at this time, Greeley was in a battle with Evans vying for the county seat. So the Union Colony of Colorado had donated 8 lots for county purposes, and of course Greeley had its eye on the prize, which was indeed wresting the honors of becoming the county seat away from its rival Evans. And so a jail was built then on one of those lots, and it cost about $2,000.
This first jail truly catapulted change for the courthouse block. It showed that Greeley residents were willing to do whatever it took to gain the county seat. Finally, in 1877, that became a reality.
Again, there was going to be a lot of potential for growth, and we needed a courthouse to serve a growing population throughout what would have been a county that encompassed all of northeastern Colorado at that time. So again, there were bonds issued to construct a new courthouse, and in 1883, 1884, a 3-story brick courthouse was constructed on block 65. It was a beautiful building with white stone trimmings, signified that Weld County was a force to be reckoned with.
By 1888, this block consisted of the new jail and also the courthouse that had the red brick and mansard roof. It was set up to become a block of law and order. Ironically enough, it also became a mob block. In the early morning hours on a cold December morning in 1888, a lynch mob originating from Evans stormed the Weld County Jail and pulled W.D. French out of his cell. They marched him to a tree next to the courthouse and strung him to a cottonwood tree. The mob believed that W.D. French had killed in a cold-blooded manner. And so, thinking that the courts were going to release him, they stormed the jail and took justice into their own hands. That was Greeley's first lynching and also its last.
The decade 1900 to 1910, everything around Lincoln Park, everything around that block began to boom.
Greeley was the place. It was the intersection of some major roads and everything like that, and people came from all over the plains, from Cheyenne and everything. It really was the northern Colorado hub.
At this time, Greeley was really growing, and we needed a new hotel, and so a group of Greeley gentlemen and investors built the Sterling Hotel and Theater.
They had other things beside movies there. They had visiting entertainers and things like that that came there.
Many of the first residents of Greeley were from New York, so culture was really important. With the railroad going through, there were a lot of opportunities to have guest artists that would come through on the train, and a good performance space was needed.
I just remember from the outside, it was a very classic building.
The theater held 1,200 people. It had a very large stage, one of the best in the Rocky Mountain regions. After it was built, it became the home for the new Greeley Philharmonic Orchestra, for example. And of course, with lots of traveling businessmen at that time, again, having a new hotel, having a new commercial block was really important. After that, just bang, 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 right in a row, we needed a new jail. And so in 1911, a new jail was purchased immediately to the west. This would have been where the Baptist Church was located. And then the Greeley Elks Club built a brand new lodge. They had almost 550 members. So all of a sudden on this block, you get these amazingly beautiful buildings. It was a prosperous time because business was booming. The county commissioners began to look for ways to enlarge or to think about a new county building. One of the concerns with the 1883 red brick courthouse was that it wasn't completely fireproof. The commissioners then began to look towards building a much larger building.
At the time, it was not popular because there was a tax imposed on the Weld County residents, and the courthouse that we were occupying at the time had just been completed in the mid-1880s. So it hadn't been open that long before this building was conceptualized. So the citizens of Weld County were, of course, wondering, why do we need another building when we have this building that is only a couple decades old?
There are stories of where hundreds of men came and protested against the building of a new courthouse. They really truly thought that the commissioners should just remodel or, fix up, maintain the courthouse that was currently in place. But I think as the commissioners were going through and looking at it, they realized, putting a Band-Aid on an old building just wasn't going to work, and they wanted a facility, a building that was going to last for hundreds of years or 100 years and really meet the needs of the growing Weld County.
It was truly the first of its kind in Weld County and much of northern Colorado. It was a one-stop shop for all the county functions. Every county office was housed in this courthouse.
What's pretty cool is back then they actually built a women's restroom, a public women's restroom. It was the first in downtown Greeley.
And it also provided jobs, including an elevator pilot.
At that time, the pilot sat on what would be equivalent to a bar stool, about that height, and he'd run you up and down the elevator. You had a little bell to call.
The fact that they opened the doors on Independence Day, July 4th, was monumental.
This was located conveniently 2 blocks from the rail station, close to all the commercial district as well. So very, very convenient for people to just visit this beautiful building.
In the early 1960s, then Chief District Judge Donald Carpenter basically told the county commissioners that, hey, we need the room and you need to get the county offices out of the courthouse. Like we've experienced many times since, the county was growing rapidly at that time. We desperately needed room for the courts. That resulted in changes in the courthouse block to include the destruction of the Sterling Theater and Hotel.
The county also obtained for $165,000 a parking lot at the southwest corner of the block from the city of Greeley. And so this opened up the entire block for expansion, but also efficiency, because it would still allow for more room, desperately needed for the storage of records, for personnel, for prisoners, for the caseloads that people were dealing with. Starting in 1974 and 1975, Weld County stepped up the construction of new buildings on Block 65. They started on the south with what would become the new Weld County Centennial Center. They worked their way around the corner to the Plaza West building. And since about 1979, really, there has not been a lot of substantial change to Block 65 in terms of structures. There have been repairs and improvements to some of the infrastructure, but substantially the block has just remained pretty much as it would have looked to someone moving to Greeley, Colorado, say by 1980.
I'm glad I had a chance to know what it was like during those days, that I shopped, I grew up in the area, I was familiar with all these things, so they're a part of my life, and I'm glad for that.
I think that it's always important to care about one's history or heritage. Whether we think about it very much from day to day or not, we are a part of that history. How we feel, how we think, how we act, and what we do, no matter what our jobs are, we contribute to the history of a community. And a place as beautiful and as functional and as grand as the Weld County Courthouse is a constant reminder for us to benchmark high, to do our best, to contribute as good citizens to every aspect of our life and our community.